Hey up everyone! From muddy battlefields to desert warfare, motorcycles have played a crucial role in the military over the years. In this video, we'll explore the engineering genius behind some of the most famous military bikes and uncover the stories of those that succeeded, those that failed, and the fascinating way these machines influenced the industry. I will look at the motorcycles that the military from around the world chose to put on the front line, exploring the shared design DNA of German and Soviet heavyweights, the surprising story of America's experimental contenders, the ingenious specialization of British bikes, and the enduring legacies that still live on today. So grab your helmet, because we're about to hit the road on a journey through motorcycle military history. Often used for rapid deployment, scouting, courier work and more, these are those bikes that were built for the battlefield. The motorcycles that not only shaped the course of wars, but also helped create the world we know today. Their influence endured long after the guns fell silent, and some of their engineering carries on being used right up into the present day. Whether it was speed, agility or manoeuvrability that was needed, someone made a motorcycle built for it somewhere, and if they didn't, there was a determined engineer who would help design them somewhere. Some you will know, but hopefully some will be a surprise, and I will do the most obvious ones first. I've tried to include as many as I could find to make this the most comprehensive military motorcycle reference work I could. There are bound to be the ones I've missed, so do let me know in the comments. If there are enough, I will maybe do a follow-up. Essential tools of war, these motorcycles had to be able to run on terrible fuel, be resilient, adaptable, dependable and fast enough. A good tank range was always a good idea too, so they had to tick a lot of boxes. Cost was always a factor as well, whether that was a destitute war department trying to save money or a successful country trying to make a show of flexing its muscles. Cost would always come into it somewhere. The British seemed to use more motorcycles than anyone else, but different armies did use their motorcycles in quite different ways, so some of the bikes here are very different indeed. They all carved their own niche and nurtured an unwavering spirit of adventure for many of those who rode them into the heart of conflicts. Before I go on, I have to say a quick thank you for all the support, and especially to the BAREBONESMC family on the Ko-fi page. You can find more videos there and on the Rumble channel, as well as the backup channel here on YouTube. But for now, grab a cuppa and settle in for a journey exploring the military motorcycles of the past. Please try and remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy it, and if you're watching on a mobile, try and give us some hype points too if you could. But let's get on with it and explore these often forgotten warriors of the motorcycle world. We start in the UK with a bike that had been built in one form or another from 1907. The Norton Big Four, or to give it its official designation, the Model 1, served as a heavy-duty workhorse for the British military during World War II. Designed to carry 2 or 3 men and their equipment over rough terrain, the Big Four was primarily used for reconnaissance and moving ammunition to the frontline troops. It had a 630cc side-valve air-cooled single-cylinder engine, generating a meagre 14 horsepower, but it would pull a train with masses of bottom-end torque, making hauling heavy loads, including sidecars, a breeze. Around 5,000 Big Four sidecar outfits were produced for the military use during the war, and they featured a 4-speed gearbox with chain final drive, girder front forks and a rigid rear suspension. Its simple design made it easy to maintain in the field, which was a crucial factor during wartime conditions. Its role was gradually taken over by other more up-to-date bikes and small four-wheel drive cars like the Land Rover, but the Big Four played a valuable role, especially in the early years of the war. Next, for the motorcycle that would define this list for many, we go to the USA. The Harley-Davidson WLA, nicknamed the Liberator, is arguably the most iconic military motorcycle of World War II. produced from 1940 to 1945 and later revived for the Korean War, the WLA was based on the civilian WL model, but adapted for the rigours of war. Its 45 cubic inch or 740cc side valve V-twin engine produced around 25 horsepower, and it proved reliable with a top speed fast enough for convoy escorts and dispatch riders. There were many military modifications beyond the olive drab paint, blackout lights and fenders with the removable sides to prevent mud clogging, and it was solid enough to carry a full radio setup along with ammo boxes and even a Thompson submachine gun scabbard, which wasn't a small achievement. An oil bath air cleaner initially designed for tractors meant it was reliable even in dusty environments like the desert, and the WLA came with a 3-speed hand-shift transmission and Springer front forks, but it had a rigid rear end. They were simple, robust and easy to maintain in the field. Weighing 245 kilos or 540 pounds dry, the WLA was a substantial motorcycle, but its low centre of gravity and wide tyres gave it great stability even on rough terrain. The Americans didn't often use it as a combat vehicle, however the WLAs supplied to the Soviet Union were often fitted with sidecars for a small artillery gunner and were used as a front-line battle wagon. Many WLAs were sold as surplus in Western countries after the war. The low cost of the bikes made them an obvious choice for returning soldiers, as well as new riders, and their legacy lives on. Going back to a time before the Harley WLA, we have another heavyweight. The Sokol 1000, or the CWS M111, was produced from 1933 to 1939, and it was Poland's heaviest pre-war motorcycle, serving both civilian and military roles. Its 995cc 4-stroke V-twin engine produced 18 horsepower at just 3,000 rpm, so with a top speed of 62 miles an hour, it wasn't fast. This was a heavy hauler. Designed for reliability and durability, the Sokol 1000 had a robust frame with a 6-spring suspension and was fitted with a sidecar as standard. Its big 5.3-gallon fuel tank provided a significant range, making it perfect for extended patrols and dispatch duties, as well as a way to get weapons and ammunition to the front line. While heavy for its class, the Sokol 1000's strong construction and over-engineered design gave it fantastic off-road capabilities, and it was a valuable asset for the Polish Army. One of its innovative features was a soft sidecar mounting, designed to absorb impacts over rough terrain. This gave the Sokol 1000 better handling and allowed for greater off-road speed by absorbing shocks and maintaining better control on uneven ground. This innovative feature was a key technical innovation developed by Polish engineers, and it made the motorcycle much more stable and controllable when riding off-road. It meant that the motorcycle could handle bumps and uneven surfaces much more effectively, and was faster off-road compared to any of the other heavyweight assault bikes. Despite its relatively high cost, the Sokol 1000's reliability and durability made it a popular choice, and every 10th motorcycle produced underwent rigorous testing to ensure a consistently good build quality. The Sokol 1000 stands as an example of the ingenuity and resourcefulness of the Polish motorcycle industry of the pre-war era, and it makes me wonder what happened to the engineers, the factory and tooling. Shortly after the Sokol 1000 was built, we got a German flat-twin sidecar outfit, but maybe not the one you might think. Developed in 1937 at the direct request of the German Army High Command, the Zundapp KS750 was a purpose-built military motorcycle and sidecar built with a specific set of demanding criteria. The Army needed a motorcycle that could carry a 500 kilo or 1,100 pound payload, 3 soldiers, and achieve a top speed of 95 kilometers an hour or 60 miles per hour. The KS750 could run all day fully loaded at 50 miles an hour or 8 kilometers an hour on the Autobahn, but also, crucially, it had to be able to maintain a minimum speed of just 2.5 miles per hour or 4 kilometers an hour so it could keep pace with marching infantry. The Zundapp KS750 was designed with a unique two-wheel drive system where both the rear wheel and the sidecar wheel were shaft-driven. It had 5 forward and 1 reverse gear and a locking differential to effectively split torque on difficult terrain. Equipped with 4.5 by 16-inch cross-country tyres, the KS750 had great ground clearance and was capable of handling even the most rigorous wartime service. The motorcycle, powered by a 750cc flat-twin engine, entered service in 1941 after 4 years of development and was deployed on all major German battlefronts. Despite its advanced features and success on the battlefield, its high production cost led to its discontinuation in 1944, but over 18,500 units were built before it was discontinued, showing its value as a purpose-built war machine. It began with the search for the ultimate all-terrain motorcycle, and the Zundapp KS750 was the culmination of that search. Imagine how unstoppable it would be if the V-twin Sokol with its off-road chassis and the drivetrain of the Zundapp had been built into one bike. Next, we go behind the Iron Curtain, because perhaps one of the most fascinating stories of military engineering comes from the other side of the conflict. Originally branded as the MMZ, it was then called the IMZ, then the GMZ, when the factory was moved. The IMZ Ural, initially designated the M72, has its origins in the Soviet Union's preparation for a potential conflict with Nazi Germany. The Red Army needed a small, durable, multi-purpose vehicle that could handle the poor roads and unforgiving battlefields of the USSR. A meeting at the end of the 1930s concluded that the Nazi Army's BMW R17 motorcycle was the ideal design, and in an incredible feat of military-industrial espionage, the Soviets covertly acquired 5 R71 units through the back door via Sweden. Then they reverse-engineered the entire bike to create their own. The M72 wasn't a similar design, it was a direct and very intentional act of copying. Production of the M72 began in August 1941 at the Moscow motorcycle plant. But when the Nazis invaded, the factory was moved east to Irbyt in the Ural Mountains to protect it from the Luftwaffe's bombing. It was at this point that the motorcycle got its new name, the Ural. It had a 746cc flat-twin 4-stroke engine with a shaft-driven final drive and was capable, at least in theory, of hitting a top speed of 65 miles per hour or 105 kilometers per hour. But in practice, that was unlikely, especially if it had been loaded down with soldiers or ammunition. A total of 9,799 M72s were delivered to reconnaissance and mobile detachments during World War II. After the war, military production was shifted to another plant, and IMZ began focusing on producing bikes for the domestic market. In 1994, Urals began to be sold on the world stage, and today they are a globally recognised brand. The main product, the Ural Gear Up, has the same classic appearance as the old Ural, but in a more modern motorcycle with some pretty high-end parts from international suppliers like Brembo brakes and Sachs suspension. It shows the enduring viability of a design that was forged over 80 years ago on the brutal battlefields of the Eastern Front, but it still carves a niche in the modern industry. We go back to Germany next, with one of the most iconic designs ever built. The BMW R12 and R17 were produced from 1935 to 1942 and represent a significant chapter in the history of military motorcycles. Both were flat twins. The R12 had a 745cc side-valve boxer twin engine that produced 18 horsepower. It had a 4-speed manual gearbox with a hand-shift lever, which gave it a top speed of around 70 miles an hour. The final drive was a shaft, which was a game changer in the mud of the battlefields. For military applications, a single carb version known as the Einvergasser motor was made exclusively for the R12, and they became the workhorse of the German army during World War II. The R17 featured a new overhead valve engine to push up performance for special duties, but they were a rare beast. You will hear that it was heavily influenced by the 1934 R7 concept motorcycle, which introduced a new hydraulic fork design, and that it was that single innovation that would prove a game changer. Well, that's all true, except for the fact, as you will hear in my video about motorcycle innovations linked in the description, they weren't the first. They stole the design from Nilfisk. But you could say the R12 was the first mass-produced motorcycle with hydraulically damped telescopic forks. The innovation in suspension technology made it perfect for military needs, with far better handling than most of its competitors. Compared to the competition, they were relatively compact too, though they weren't lightweight. With a 3.1 gallon fuel tank, the R12 and R17 had a decent range, so they were used for extended patrols and dispatch duties. The R12 could return anything from 60 to 67 miles to the gallon, which gave it a significant advantage with a 200-mile range. Their robust construction and dependable performance made them valuable assets for the German military, and they were strong enough to pull a heavily loaded sidecar with ease, and they shaped the future of the BMW brand more than any other bike. Back in the USA, the wheels were turning. The Indian 841 was one of Indian's more innovative approaches to military motorcycle design. Developed in 1941 specifically for desert warfare during World War II, the 841 featured a unique longitudinally mounted air-cooled 90-degree V-twin engine with a shaft drive to the rear wheel, a configuration later made famous by the Motor Guzzi brand. This 737cc engine produced 25 horsepower and would push the 841 up to a top speed of around 70 miles per hour. Its tubular frame, plunger-rear suspension and 4-speed transmission with foot-operated shifter and hand-operated clutch was similar to the BMW R71, which served as inspiration for the 841's design. However, the Indian 841 distinguished itself with its unique engine configuration. It also featured a heel-toe shift pedal, crash bars for cylinder protection, 18-inch wheels and 2 separate petrol tanks holding a full 5 gallons of fuel. While the 841 ultimately wasn't adopted for widespread military use, its innovative design made it a fascinating example of wartime motorcycle development. At the same time, in the UK, it was the Birmingham Small Arms Company that were at the forefront of the war effort. Initially deemed a near failure by the War Office in 1936, the M20 proved its worth through sheer reliability and ease of maintenance. Manufactured by the Birmingham Small Arms Company, it became a workhorse for the British Army during World War II, both as a solo motorcycle and as a sidecar outfit. Its 496cc single-cylinder side-valve 4-stroke engine produced just 13 horsepower at 4,200 rpm, but it would pull a truck through the mud on the battlefield when needed. It was so strong. The M20 was a simple design, and its robust construction allowed it to survive the harshest conditions of wartime service. With a 3-gallon fuel tank and a 4-speed transmission with chain drive, it offered a practical range and utilitarian functionality. Eventually, over 126,000 M20s saw active service during the war, making it the most common motorcycle produced for the British military at the time. Its tough simplicity made it a favourite among the troops, and its name still lingers today, with many M20s still in use around the world. It might not get anywhere quickly, but the M20 would always get there, even if it was loaded down with artillery shells and pulling a trailer behind the sidecar outfit. Down the road, in 1932, The Ariel WNG 350 was being designed by Val Page, based on the Ariel Red Hunter. It was powered by a strong 346cc overhead valve, 2-valve air-cooled single-cylinder engine that delivered 17 horsepower at 5,800 RPM. It had a 4-speed gearbox and chain final drive, making the WNG 350 fast and responsive for its time. While not initially chosen by the War Department, the WNG 350 became highly sought after following the Dunkirk evacuations in 1940. The British Army had lost a significant number of motorcycles, and the Ariel was drafted in to fill the gaps. It was basic, with girder front forks and a rigid back end, but they were simple and robust enough to handle the challenging terrain of the battlefield. Weighing just 169 kilos dry, the WNG 350 was lightweight compared to many of the military bikes in use, making it very manoeuvrable, and its compact size made it easy to transport. The bike's 2.6 gallon fuel tank provided a reasonable range, and the Ariel WNG 350 filled a critical gap in the British Army's motorcycle inventory, proving its worth during a time of great need. The UK did just use a lot of motorcycles, and Velocet were next to the front. The Mac was born in 1933 really, from the M series overhead valve MOV 250, but the Mac 350 followed, offering 75 miles an hour from its 350cc high camshaft pushrod engine. The short rocker arms meant less vibration, and it became a firm favourite as a smooth, straightforward, slimline single-cylinder motorcycle. Military versions of the Mac were made for the war effort from 1939. The MDD had a beefed-up clutch, while the MAF had a reverse race shift or up-for-down gear change, which was subsequently adopted across the whole range. The pressed steel front drum brake was dumped in favour of a 7-inch front and 6-inch rear cast iron drum brake for the military models, and it found a niche in post-war military service too. The 4-speed gearbox with chain final drive, 19-inch wheels and a 50.25-inch wheelbase with a seat height of 27.5 inches gave the rider a balanced but commanding riding position, and its 350cc overhead valve air-cooled single-cylinder engine provided a smooth, reliable ride. It coped well with the lower-grade petrol available during the war and in the post-war era, which made it a practical choice for military use, and it excelled in roles where dependable transport was the primary focus rather than high performance. Its adaptability made it a valuable asset in certain applications. Back to the USA, the Harley-Davidson XA was another experimental army motorcycle produced in 1942. It represents a unique chapter in Harley-Davidson's military history. Developed during World War II, the XA was again specifically designed for desert warfare and was inspired by the BMW R71. Its 740cc side-valve flat twin was a departure from Harley's traditional V-twin engine format. It generated 23 horsepower at 4,600 RPM, which was pretty good for its time. Compared to the big Norton, it was a powerful bike. The XA featured a 4-speed foot-shift transmission, shaft drive and a tubular steel double cradle chassis, but it used a leading link front suspension and plunger rear, making it a more comfortable ride over rough terrain. The XA was tailored for off-road performance, and a 57.5-inch wheelbase made it more manoeuvrable in the dirt. While ultimately not adopted for widespread military use, the XA's unique design and desert-focused features showcased Harley-Davidson's willingness to innovate specifically for the needs of the military. Back to the UK again, and the bikes were getting smaller. The Matchless G3L was a British motorcycle produced from 1939 to 1946. It played a significant role during World War II and was in fact still being used well into the 1960s, which shows its durability. Matchless manufactured approximately 80,000 G3 and G3L models for the British Army, and this motorcycle marked a significant shift for the British. It introduced what the company called telehydraulic front suspension, which went on to become the Norton Roadholder system. Based on the same technology as the Nilfisk and BMW suspension, it used an oil-damped telescopic system, replacing the less forgiving girder forks of earlier models. This improved the handling significantly and improved rider comfort too, especially over rough terrain. The G3L's 350cc air-cooled single-cylinder engine produced around 16 horsepower at 5,200 rpm, which proved more than sufficient power for its military duties. A 4-speed transmission with chain final drive offered reliable performance, and it proved itself a reliable and durable steed in challenging military environments. Next, we go from the sublime to the ridiculous, and in 1942, one of the most unique bikes of the war. That bike was the Royal Enfield WDRE, or, as it was more famously known, the Flying Flea. It was a lightweight British motorcycle created for a very specific mission, to be dropped by parachute or carried in gliders to quickly transport messages and signals for airborne and assault troops when radio comms weren't available. Its compact size and light weight of just 59 kilos or 130 pounds wet allowed it to be simply dropped into danger zones from the air. The 126cc two-stroke engine delivered 3.5 horsepower, propelling it to a top speed of 45 miles per hour, and its lightweight and impressive fuel efficiency of 130 miles to the gallon made it ideal for reconnaissance missions and messenger duties. The WD had a simple 3-speed transmission, chain final drive and drum brakes. Rigid suspension didn't make it comfortable, but it was deemed sufficient given the bike's intended role. The need for comfort was outweighed by the need for simplicity and durability. It featured folding kickstarter, footrests and handlebars for compact packing, which was essential for airborne deployment, and while few were actually parachuted into battles, they could be loaded 4 at a time into troop-carrying gliders. It had an ingenious sealed fuel vent to prevent spillage during transport too. The Flying Flea was perfect for beach landings to help communicate between the beaches and the front lines, and is another example of a specialised military design finding a new lease of life. After the war, the demand for cheap transport led to many Flying Fleas being stripped down and repainted for civilian use. The Royal Enfield Flying Flea solved a very specific problem with an ingenious lightweight design. Next, we move forward to the 1970s and a very different time. The Condor A350 was a Swiss military motorcycle that marked a unique collaboration and a rugged design. Produced for the Swiss military from 1973 to 1978, it was a solid bike. At its heart was a Ducati 350 Scrambler engine, chosen for its reliability and performance. The Scrambler engine was heavily modified for military use. Compression ratio was reduced to 8.2 to 1 to ensure reliable performance even with low-grade fuel, and power was about 16 horsepower. That gave it a top speed of around 70 miles per hour. The exhaust system was redesigned to give it near silent running, perfect for reconnaissance or covert operations. The A350's frame, built around the Ducati engine, featured rubber mounting for enhanced comfort, Marzocchi front forks and Koni rear shocks made for a comfortable ride even on rough terrain. Grimeca wheels and 200mm drum brakes were as good as you could get, and offered reliable stopping power essential for navigating in challenging alpine roads. The A350 came equipped with leather saddlebags and specific military accessories too, including blackout lights and mounts for 2 STG W57 assault rifles, highlighting its role as a versatile military platform. The A350 went on to be used by the French and Italian armies for nearly 2 decades. The French Army used the specific model up until the First Gulf War and continued its use in training manoeuvres, keeping the motorcycle in service with one regiment until at least 2006. This demonstrates that while motorcycles were no longer a frontline combat vehicle, they still filled an essential role in the military. Back in the UK, we got a motorcycle I have a soft spot for. The Armstrong MT500 was a British military motorcycle that emerged from the ashes of the Italian SWMXN Tornado, going into production in the early 1980s. Armstrong CCM Motorcycles, based in Bolton near Manchester, acquired the rights to SWM's Rotax engine, and from it they developed the MT500 for the British Army. This was a rugged machine with a 481cc air-cooled single-cylinder four-stroke engine with 4 valves and a single overhead cam. That helped it produce around 32 horsepower at 6,200 RPM and 38 Nm of torque at 5,000 RPM. So the MT500 had enough power for crossing even the most challenging terrain and would tow a Jeep if needed. But its trump card was its manoeuvrability. Its short wheelbase helped to make it nimble, while the compact size made it ideal for navigating tight spaces. A 13-litre fuel tank gave it a reasonable range for patrols and reconnaissance missions, and the MT500 was also one of the first motorcycles to feature an O-ring chain, which ran on hardened steel sprockets for better durability. While the standard model relied on a kickstart, electric start versions were produced for the Canadian and Jordanian armed forces, and this illustrated the bike's adaptability to different operational needs. The MT500's legacy extended beyond its production run too, as its design formed the basis for the later Harley-Davidson MT350E. The Harley-Davidson MT350E was an evolution of the Armstrong MT500, inheriting its robust design while incorporating some key improvements. The Rotax 348cc air-cooled single-cylinder four-stroke engine featured a single overhead camshaft design and produced 30 horsepower at 8,000 RPM and 28 Nm of torque at 6,500 RPM. The MT350E retained the MT500 short wheelbase and overall dimensions, making it just as agile and manoeuvrable, but the inclusion of electric start and disc brakes marked significant upgrades over its predecessor. This improved usability and stopping power, and the same 13-litre fuel tank offered a better range than its bigger older brother had achieved, which made it a perfect scout raider. It took on military operations and was possibly the only good bike that left the Harley-Davidson factory during the dreaded AMF years. The MT350E's dependability and robust construction meant it was kept in use well beyond its intended service life, and a strong aftermarket of spares and support means it continues to be used even today. Lastly, but definitely not least, we have the newer Italian development of that old SWM design. The Cagiva T4 was produced from 1987 to 1991, and it was a lightweight and effective off-road motorcycle that was perfect for military use. It held true to the original design of the SWM Tornado, and the 350cc version, the T4 350E, saw service in the French and Italian armies for nearly 2 decades. This air-cooled single-cylinder four-stroke engine built by Rotax produced 33 horsepower at 7,500 RPM and 28 Nm, or just over 20 foot-pounds of torque at 7,000 RPM. And the whole bike weighed just 308 pounds or 139 kilos, making it a punchy, lightweight, go-anywhere bike. The T4 featured a 5-speed transmission, chain drive and a simple cradle frame with telescopic front forks and a monoshock rear suspension, with masses of travel for off-road riding. A 240mm front disc brake and rear drum brake meant it stopped just as quickly as it went too. The T4 was simple, durable, reliable and perfectly suited for demanding off-road conditions. It offered a practical and capable platform for many military applications. From the revolutionary engineering of the German and British bikes to the widespread legacy of the American V-twin, these 17 motorcycles represent a diverse range of designs and functions, each tailored to the specific needs of the military forces they served. From the lightweight agility of the Royal Enfield Flying Flea to the robust power of the Zundapp KS750 and the innovative design of the Indian 841, these machines played vital roles in wartime operations. They showcased the ingenuity and adaptability of motorcycle design in the face of conflict. Their legacy extends beyond the battlefield, influencing motorcycle development and inspiring generations of riders. The history of the military motorcycle is a story of innovation, adaptation, and unforeseen consequences. These machines were far more than just transportation. They were tools of war that influenced engineering, shaped cultures, and left an indelible mark on history. The pressure of military requirements pushed manufacturers to innovate, leading to breakthroughs that now define modern motorcycles, and their legacy is still with us. Whether it's the Liberator sparking a new cultural movement, the Flying Flea re-emerging as an electric icon, or a Ural still rolling with a sidecar, the impact of these motorcycle workhorses is still very much alive. They remind us that even the smallest, most nimble machines can play an outsized role in the grand narrative of history. We've covered a lot of ground today, but we've still only scratched the surface. Let me know in the comments which of these bikes is your favourite and what other vintage military bikes you think I should have included. Thanks as always for watching, and I look forward to hearing your comments. You know I'll reply as soon as I can. Try and remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you're watching on mobile, hitting the hype button helps us too. Sharing the video any way you think people will be interested helps us more than most things, so it would be much appreciated if you can do that. Do remember to look in the subscription tab for new content too, because in my honest opinion, the YouTube algorithm is broken. The channels you subscribe to are much less likely to appear on your homepage now. You will have to go to the subscriptions tab to search us out. If you would like to help us to stay truly independent, on the Ko-fi link in the description, you get access to a private group where I share videos I can't screen on YouTube. There are videos anyone can watch there, but you can make a one-off donation or join our group of monthly subscribers for access to other videos that only the channel's patrons can see. Join us on Rumble too. There's some great content there that I just can't screen on YouTube. And don't forget, we make the best biker t-shirts. Hundreds of original designs on premium quality t-shirts and neck gaiters, all available worldwide. Links to the main website and the Redbubble shop are in the description. Have a great week, and always remember, keep your spanners close and your keys even closer. Ride free, everyone!